The email wasn't a surprise, the timing was. 8 a.m. on a Friday, plenty of daylight left for revenge. I'd been up since 6, the skyline sharpening in the crisp October light, a mug of black coffee cooling beside my laptop. When the notification pinged, I didn't even flinch. The subject line was efficient to the point of cruelty. Banned from annual family meeting. No salutation, no context, just the family secretary doing Margaret's bidding. A faint trace of my mother's perfume from last Christmas seemed to drift back into the room. I could still hear her voice at that holiday dinner 2 years ago, lacquered with condescension as she sliced through prime rib. Without a seat in the family council, you don't have a voice. I'd smiled politely then, the same way I did now, because I already had my own table. I dragged the email into a folder on my desktop labeled Receipts, the quiet archive of every slight, dismissal, and knife in the back they'd offered me. The list was long. First tab, a 2021 email vote to remove me from the Ellison Holdings board. Second, a 2022 memo proposing to zero out my dividends. Third, minutes from a tense September 2022 meeting where Blake, my older cousin with all the subtlety of a wrecking ball, suggested my removal from the Innovation Council. All of it documented, time-stamped, and waiting. The phone rang once before I picked it up. Margaret's voice was brisk, almost cheerful. "This saves us all some time, Katie." "Of course," I said evenly. I could hear the faint click of her watch clasp as she moved to end the call. "Enjoy your day." When the line went dead, I leaned back in my chair. Glass walls opening onto Central Park's sweep of red and gold. From up here, the city looked like a chessboard, and I'd been playing a longer game than any of them knew. A secure message flashed onto my screen. Sam. My cousin was never reckless, which made his words heavier. Today's meeting includes redistribution of shares from Walter's updated will. I felt the corner of my mouth lift. "Olivia," I called without raising my voice. She appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand, her posture as precise as her silk blouse. "Yes?" "Final status on Project Spotlight. Locked and loaded. Forbes, CNBC, Bloomberg, all on embargo until release." She didn't need to ask what we were aiming at. They wanted me out of the room? I let the satisfaction curl around each word. "Fine. They forgot I owned the building next door." Olivia's brow arched. "When do we drop it?" I glanced at the clock, the second hand ticking toward inevitability. When they raise their first glass. They think I'm locked out. The truth is, I've had the floor plan for months. Late morning turned Midtown windows pewter. My screen streamed dashboards. The left showed a live media slate. The right held the Ellison Estates seating chart. Walter at the head, Blake opposite my old chair. Walter's line from last year returned as a rule he trusted. Family assets belonged with those who can protect them. He assumed those hands were his. I counted on that assumption, the spring beneath everything we were about to pull. A secure ping, Sam. A photo of the agenda with the redistribution line circled, then a wider shot. I zoomed, tracing camera cones. A blind spot behind an ornamental palm. "Media desk," Olivia said. 2 items. "Our broker calls Blake's golf partner in 7 minutes. If a rumor surfaces, it starts there." "Keep it vapor," I said. "Nothing quotable. Phrases like shop around and liquidity chatter. No names, no verbs that draw lines back to us." "Second, CNBC legal flagged the embargo," she added. "They want buffer for possible SEC noise." "How much?" "They floated 30. I offered 5 and sent counsel's letter. I'm not moving off 230. "Hold 230, I said. "If they blink, send the revenue run rate slide." Another ping. "Sam," voice low on the encrypted app. Side hall camera rotated toward catering. I nearly walked into it. "Switch from Route 3 to Route 1, I said, sliding the plan. "No photos unless the room's empty, audio only. If they ask why you're early, you're checking the AV feed to the annex." "Hopi," he whispered. Olivia's phone buzzed. "Broker executed," she said. The phrase was hearing chatter Ellison cybersecurity could be in play. "It reads like ordinary gossip," Let it breathe, I said. My right-hand monitor flashed with an intercepted email. Blake to Walter. Kate's assets are unstable. We need to exclude her completely. Olivia angled her tablet. They blinked. Embargo stands. Package queued across all three. We're green. Then we stay with the plan. Umbrellas opened on the street as the first drops hit. Stage the valuation deck on standby. I'll park a second producer by the uplink, she said. If a feed sneezes, we flip. That's the only kind of safety I buy. The rumor rippled as intended, secondhand then third arriving like weather. Olivia time-stamped each echo and left it alone. Meanwhile, a seating chart sat on my screen like a dare. Sam again. I'm in, he breathed. Sound check complete. Walter told Blake to keep it measured. A printout of the 2022 memo is on the table. Notice? They opened the binder for Project Spotlight. Every file had a failsafe, every route a second route. If legal widened the buffer, we had precedent. If an outlet balked, another would lead. If Blake crowed about liquidity, the AR deck would close the mouth for him. I signed off on the last page, met Olivia's eyes, and let decision harden into tone. Kate signs off on the final Project Spotlight packet. Tells Olivia, put the champagne on ice. She smiled. Already did. On the far left screen, the live feed steadied. The camera panned across oil portraits and high-back chairs. Blake stepped into frame, chin lifted, rehearsing. Walter aligned a stack of papers. Margaret checked her phone, then her hair, then the phone. The clock's second hand carved its indifferent circle. Live feed shows Blake rehearsing his talking points in the Ellison boardroom. Kate murmurs, 5 hours. Some moments changed the whole board. Mine was set for 2:30 p.m., down to the second. The clock in my office glowed 2:15, its sweep hand deliberate, merciless. On the main monitor, the Ellison Estates meeting room filled the frame, mahogany table polished to a shine, decanters waiting like trophies, and Blake halfway through a slide titled Global Expansion Pathways. He was in his element. White shirt, open collar, that smirk he wore when he thought he had an audience, eating from his hand. He lingered on a bar chart, voice warm, controlled. Now, with certain ventures proving unstable. A pause long enough to imply my name without speaking it. The board must protect the family's core assets. Margaret's approving nod was almost theatrical. Walter sat back, hands folded as if this speech was the final word. On my second screen, the receipts folder sat open, files fanned like cards in a game I already knew I'd win. Olivia hovered by her console, earbuds in, lips moving as she synced with 3 producers in 3 cities. Forbes, green. CNBC green, Bloomberg, holding for my mark, she said. Mark at 2:30 exactly, I reminded her. My pulse was steady, trained to wait for the right moment, not rush toward it. The camera in the boardroom caught Blake turning to the next slide, his voice rising. We must secure a future unburdened by 15 seconds, Olivia murmured. I watched Walter lean toward Margaret, whisper something. She glanced toward Blake, with that maternal pride she saved for her chosen heir. Blake gestured at a projected map, arrows radiating from the Ellison crest. He opened his mouth. Olivia tapped a single key. Across the globe, push notifications detonated like flashbulbs, Forbes exclusive. Catherine Ellison, the billionaire CEO they didn't see coming. CNBC, secret cybersecurity empire tied to Ellison heiress valued in billions. Bloomberg, Ellison name returns to top tech rankings. The boardroom feed fractured into reaction shots. Walter's head jerked toward his phone, reading, rereading. Margaret's pen slipped from her fingers, rolled across the polished wood, hit the floor. Blake froze mid-sentence, eyes flicking to the glowing screen in his palm. His color shifted from flush to parchment. Walter cleared his throat, voice rough. This valuation. This can't be right. In perfect counterpoint, Olivia dragged a file into the family group chat. On their phones, a government-sealed slide deck. Year-over-year RR. Signed, federal contracts. Proof. I didn't need to see the ripple, I could hear it in the sudden hush of the room, the way Blake's gaze darted toward Walter, then down again. Margaret recovered first, straightening in her chair. But her hand fumbled for her pen and found nothing. I picked up my phone, selected the image already cued, my Forbes cover. Black suit, arms folded, Central Park skyline behind me. The caption was just 12 words. Sorry, I couldn't join. Busy running a multi-billion-dollar company. It landed in the chat like a match in dry grass. I watched as each family member's profile photo lit up, the scene checks stacking. Blake's lips moved, but no sound carried over the feed. Walter's eyes stayed on the slide deck, his expression unreadable. Margaret leaned back, clasped her hands, and stared at the far wall. In my office, Olivia's phone began to vibrate against the console. Then mine joined in, a low hum, then another, until the surface buzzed with overlapping calls. She turned toward me, eyebrows raised. Your phone's about to melt. The first of dozens of incoming calls flashed across the screen. And if you think that was the end of my play, you've only seen the opening move. Subscribe now so you don't miss the moment I turn the whole game inside out. They locked me out of their room yesterday. This morning they waited outside mine. Seattle's light had a cleaner edge. Blue air, a bright chill that turned glass to metal. From the 60th floor, Elliott Bay looked like a strip of steel. In the lobby, my family clustered beneath the hanging sculpture, facing a ticker that pulsed facts. $998. M revenue, $300. M profit, 3-year backlog, federal contracts. Shoes clicked, the fountain whispered. No one spoke first. Olivia in my ear. They're here. Walter upright, Blake pacing. Margaret checking the same message that never changes. Let them wait 20 minutes, I said, rotating the wall display so margins and geography cycled. Facts polish pride down to the grain. It isn't the strike that hurts, it's the shine after. I initialed a vendor's schedule and signed 2 compliance addenda. Walter refused to sit, spine in that old boardroom angle, posture as verdict. Blake tried nonchalance, one hand in a pocket, one flattening his tie each time the ticker flashed profit. The feed caught his jaw when $300 reappeared, tight, grinding. Margaret tugged a scarf, then her composure, then the scarf again. A junior PM set water on the credenza and slipped out. The replica boardroom waited behind double doors, a measured twin of Connecticut. Same table, same chairbacks, oil portraits corrected to the order that had always bothered me. I didn't build it to needle, I built it to prove a principle. I didn't need their room, any room could be mine. The elevator reached 59 and lingered, doors closed, chrome like a withheld verdict. At minute 19, I closed my folder and stood. Now, the door sighed open. Olivia at the threshold, composed. Welcome to Ellison Cybersecurity. Miss Ellison, we'll see you upstairs. Upstairs did its work, absolutely. In the car, mirrors held their reflections between floors labeled with single words: trust, signal, shield. When 60 opened, walnut and glass absorbed their shapes. Staff peeled away. Beyond the atrium, the replica's doors waited. Walter's gaze slid past me to that seam of oil paint. Miss Ellison, he said, formal. We should talk. We will, I said, after you're seated. They took their places. Observers arranged themselves with the hush of people who know that proximity isn't voice. Walter set both hands on the table as if fastening ground. First, congratulations. Extraordinary. Thank you. What matters now is alignment, he continued. We can avoid duplication, market confusion, needless friction. By folding Ellison Cybersecurity into Ellison Holdings. That is the proposal, he said, for the good of the family brand. It's sensible, Margaret added. Consolidation, synergy, one Ellison. Different legal entity, I said. And it's staying that way. Blake's cheek twitched. There's reputational overlap, shareholder confusion, risk. Risk, I said, lifting the remote. Screens lit. Contracts, deliverables, ARR, margins. The SEC tick pulsed in the corner. What you're seeing is clarity. He stared at numbers as if they'd insulted him. Margaret followed seals and acronyms. Walter didn't look at the screens. He watched me. You've made your point, he said. But there is still the matter of our name. That depends on meaning, I said. Noun or verb. Silence adjusted its weight. Walter shifted tactics. Public questions are coming. Use our PR apparatus. Cross-promote. A unified podium. We already have a podium, Olivia said from the wall. At least commit to a framework, he tried. An MOU. It signals solidarity. It signals control, I said. We're finished with that conversation. The replica worked on them. It guided their bodies into the old geometry while refusing the old outcome. Walter glanced at the empty head chair, then back at me with a wry respect. You've made improvements. I thought you'd feel more at home this way. It didn't land as mockery. Accuracy has its own temperature. Blake's knuckles whitened under the table. Through the glass, cranes turned against the bay, indifferent. Olivia leaned in, voice low. SEC cleared the S1 update overnight. I nodded toward the table. Let's begin. Amy thought this was a negotiation. I knew it was the final lesson in what power really means. Sunlight pitched across the table, turning varnish to fire. The CNBC team waited in the corner, quiet. On the wall, tickers crept with pre-market chatter. Beside them, our filings scrolled with the indifferent pulse of facts. Olivia touched her earpiece. Last night's whisper still held. SEC cleared the S1 update overnight. Walter smoothed a page he didn't need. For the good of the family brand, he began, wearing the phrase the way some men wear a crest. Fold your assets into Ellison Holdings. We speak with one voice. Margaret added velvet. It's sensible, Katie. A united Ellison. I heard her older line float up from Winter. Without a seat in the family council, you don't have a voice. And let it dissolve. My voice was here. The seat was mine. The room looked outward. This company was built without your money, and it will stay outside your control, I said. My tone didn't rise. The consonants did the cutting. Walter measured. Blake shifted, the chair suddenly unfriendly. Nod to Olivia. The wall brightened with an email caught in daylight. Blake to Walter, urging my exclusion, written with the easy cruelty of a man who assumed night would last. Sam's quiet courage lived behind the pixels like a watermark. Blake blanched, then flushed. That was risk management, he stammered. Rumors move. Where you point them, I said. Evidence moves on its own. Margaret tried to redirect the current. Influence is what we're protecting, she said. I let the screens answer. Contracts stacked like steel, signed seals, deliverables aligned on rails already humming, the exchange uplink confirmed in the corner. The podium schedule locked. Walter tried one last angle. A framework, then. A memorandum. It signals unity. It signals ownership, I said. That conversation is over. I turned the remote. Aurora Tower unfurled across the glass, steel and sky breeding into a single line. The Ellison Estates roofline, small on the ridge, looked like a signature from an earlier draft. Tonight, I said, Aurora Tower will host a remote opening bell ceremony in partnership with the NYSE, the first ever in Seattle. Blake reached for protest and found only optics. It looks like you're beating, I said. Correct. I stepped closer until the tower filled my sightline. The light cinched tight around its edges. I had spent years watching them measure worth, by chairs and doors, and who held the key. I built a horizon. That tower isn't just taller, it's mine. The camera slid from my face to theirs, Walter's calculation settling into acceptance, Margaret's compromise folding in on itself, Blake staring at the email that had become a mirror. Back to the tower, where riggers unfurled a banner pane by pane, letters catching sunlight. For a breath the room held. Not triumph so much as calibration. Revenge had been the rumor. The inventory was what remained. Olivia's shoulder touched mine, punctuation more than comfort. The crew chief raised 2 fingers. Ready. Steady. Kate walks toward the CNBC crew. Let's go make history. From the glass wall behind her, the family's reflection appears, spectators to her ascent, Aurora Tower gleaming in the background. Thank you for walking beside me. If my fight against silence and gatekeeping resonated, lend your voice. Support me, leave your thoughts for Kate below, and tell me which moment strengthened you. Here's my hard-won advice. Document everything. Choose timing over noise. Build rooms where doors are closed, and never trade autonomy for approval. Measure success by impact, not invitations. If you're underestimated, let that be fuel, not fate. Stand tall. We rise farther when we rise together. Stay with me.